Today I'm going to be talking about silent misalignment. That's not always about fighting about money. Sometimes it can fight about meaning. So when you're looking for property or looking for a space in any journey, whatever it is you're doing, and today I'm going to be talking to those with significant others, those with partners, wives, husbands, whatever it may be. You would not believe the amount of conversations I have with people who make a great team in a lot of ways, but there is a lot of unspoken resentment, an element of holding back what it is they want, or the assumption that it's not that big a deal to either themselves or their stakeholder. The amount of times I've sat down with people and let them talk, and all of this comes out in a variety of ways. People almost assume that's the norm and that's the way it's supposed to be, not to worry about it. You'll always figure it out. I'm all for agree to disagree. But when it comes to property and buying, it's extremely important to understand and give each other the space to be open about what it is you're looking for. It's very easy to gloss over it'll be fine now versus in practice is two different things. It's almost like booking a holiday. Anyone sitting down now, we're getting into the darker months. They have the laptop open in front of them, or they have their travel agent on speed dial and they're booking something for over that way. They may be thinking about the concept of moving or going to that particular holiday destination, but they mightn't have thought about the details. So they're booking it and then they'll focus at a later date. People take the same approach when they're buying something. And the difficulty is you don't get the chance to use a 24-hour cancellation policy. You don't get the chance to change your mind once you've bought it and you're sitting in it. So my thought for the day is to get you to front load that thought process and really look into what it is that you're reasoning with your partner or ignoring, that goes both ways, about what really matters or the meaning in the property purchase, because the money is the mechanical piece of it and the legals are the mechanical piece of it. But when you're looking at how you're going to live in it, I often come across a few different scenarios. Let's say scenario one could be you have one partner that travels a lot and you have another one that's supporting the home, and let's say they're looking after kids or keeping the home. And I think there's a huge value in being a homemaker because the initial phrase homemaker means they're making the home. But let's say, for example, you assume that you want this big house in a lovely location and it's a little bit further afield. That could tick the boxes from a singular event perspective. So let's say you have everyone over for dinner, for drinks, for Christmas. And for that one day, it's this idyllic place everyone loves to be. You've got all these sweeping staircases to show them. You've got space and acreage to be able to convey light coming in here. And if we wanted to do that over there, we could. And that's great. That's 1 or 2 days throughout the year. But if you are traveling a lot and you're leaving your partner to be at home more often than not, let's say, do they want to be slightly removed? Do they want to be further away? Do they want that sense of privacy if it's not that the whole family the entirety of the time? Maybe they don't. But the reason I'm asking the question is I've had this put to me so many times where one person says, oh, it'll be fine. I only do X days of travel. But X days of travel turns into maybe it's a month longer than you anticipated. Maybe it's not. And then the person that's in the house has to then build a community and go out and essentially fend for themselves socially without being able to plug into a natural community or natural amenities nearby. But that's just a very simple example of what people gloss over in the now versus the practicality. And I always encourage everyone to realize that there is always both sides to everything, and it's about the juice being worth the squeeze. So when you are looking at what it is you want, a lot of it is actually about assessing both sides. People look at a big house and they assume expansive space, practicality, people can stay, and all these other things. There is also an equal and opposite of that, which is price to be paid to keep it. Your property tax is going to be different. Your upkeep and your landscaping is going to be more extensive. And let's just say you're leaving yourself a little bit more open to additional costs that you may not have expected. That's not a bad thing. That's not a good thing. It just is. So when you're looking at the misalignment between partners, that could be that lifestyle equivalent of that, which is if I'm traveling a lot and I don't think to be back at home and what it takes today to run it, I can gloss over the everyday things in a conversation, but in the actual everyday things are what's going to frustrate and build resentment within my partner. Equally, when you're traveling, your partner assumes that if you're in first class or you're traveling and enjoying it, that there's no fatigue, you don't have any pressure, and there is also that misalignment on their part. And in a personal standpoint, I'll tell you that where we live suits our needs because of the type of lifestyle we have. So my kids go to a school locally. It works perfectly because we get to walk them to school. But the rest of my days are spent in the car or out meeting people. My wife likes to be central, close to amenities and family that matter most to her. I could say we could have a house further away with privacy and space, But the reality is, if I'm not there to enjoy it as much as I'd like, I'm then putting the pressure on my wife to do the thing that doesn't actually suit both of us. So when you're assessing what you want, it's important to lean into that investment in front loading. And here's a couple of things that I think work very well for people. A lot of it is giving people token to talk. So if you're sitting down with someone and you gloss over the fact that your husband or wife wants an outdoor space, or partner wants an outdoor space for working out, for gym, or for a music studio or cinema, there is a joshing way that you can approach something, which is, oh yeah, we'll get that later on. It may not be a serious issue for that person. But what if it was? What if they wanted a space that was important to them? What if you're pushing them into a location or an area that you really know they're not fully aware of what it takes to live there? What's second nature to you isn't second nature to other people. So with this token to talk, I'd encourage you to sit down and say to the person, I'm going to give you the token, obviously the virtual token, you're not going to have to pay them. Let's just say you're sitting down having a conversation. Give them the space and the time to talk about the things they want, the things they're concerned about, and just really try and get them to open up about what they may be fearful of. If water keeps being poured on that plant, it's just going to grow. That slight, it'll be okay, becomes a big deal down the line. When you're making a big purchase, yes, you're dealing with a tight market. I understand that. You can't always get exactly what you want. But by God, there's so many things you can do to front load the frustration and get rid of the unknown quantities by having these conversations. And just because I like things one way doesn't mean that person's going to like it that way. Just because they like things a certain way doesn't mean I like it. And yes, there's going to be compromises, but they don't have to be a sweeping statement of, we'll live in the countryside and we'll just figure it out, or we'll live in the city and we'll just figure it out. There has to be a back and forth and an understanding. And I think when people are looking at the mechanics of buying, they think it just has to be, oh, it ticks the boxes, it's got 3 or 4 bedrooms, and it's within spitting distance of what we want. But a common story I see with people is that they are very busy. They usually have 2 very busy professional careers. Generally, they have kids, and what they're trying to do is just get somewhere. So when you're very busy, you're an executive, C-suite, business owner, you're traveling all the hours that God gives you, that all takes a toll on your decision-making ability as well. When people are busy looking at property, you could have people that are looking at 10 to 15 properties in a very short space of time, and they won't remember anything. The difficulty is that often is a result of not being clear on what it is they want. And the simple exercise of having a coffee in the location you want without looking at anything and imagining what the day-to-day would look like is actually a key feature in understanding how you're going to live somewhere. Because the house is one part of the puzzle. The second part of the puzzle is the location and amenities and your day-to-day life. The third is going to be the geography of how you live. So do your kids go to a certain school if you have kids? Do you have to travel to the airport? When you're switched off from work, do you prefer to be removed from everything? And sometimes people don't think about any of this, but that's the biggest thing you're ever going to do. And when I go back to my initial idea of booking holidays, if I book a week somewhere and it's met or it's not to my absolute liking, I can choose to leave, I can come home, or I can upgrade or extend or do what I want to do. You don't want to be doing that with a property. And one of the key things to remember is people will sell you on what they think you want or what they have. So if you're looking at something and contingency is low, people often aren't going to take the time to say, you know what, everything you're telling me is saying that you don't need to be living in the city, you need to be living near the coast, or vice versa. No one's going to do that for you. But if you are looking at what it is you really want, don't set this broad range of a search area where you're thinking of living in one location and then 30 kilometers away you're going to live in that location. There's going to be key differentials there as to why you're going to hate it and why you're going to love it. It's very important for people to look at this and say, how is it we are going to live here? Because it's all about you and it's about your family. So if you have your children's education front and center, you are either going to spend your days commuting for that particular purpose, or you're going to build your life around that educational piece for a period of time. If that's not the center point to what you want to do, but you don't mind commuting, then the daily commute of an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it may be, will then be counteracted by your enjoyment at the weekend and at holidays and downtime in a place that's further removed. But that misalignment with couples oftentimes is the real disregard for the things that seem small now but will grow in time. So for this article, I'm going to encourage you to talk through the various elements of what you want and don't want without fighting, giving the person space, and without diminishing what is important to them. It's very easy, especially if they're quite affable and go with the flow, to gloss over things that may seem important. Always look at both sides. The really important thing here is that nothing is ever absolute on one side or the other. That's something I've learned quite a lot, and it's really impacted my life phenomenally. In this situation, I would say look at both sides. If you want to live further away from a city centre, what's the price to be paid for that? Commute, limited amenities, social element, community, those coming to visit you, or play dates. If your partner travels a lot or you travel a lot, what does that mean for day-to-day life? If you have an au pair, how does that work from a travel and safety perspective? Equally, if you're going the opposite way and you're central, you're going to have a reduced size generally of an outdoor footprint, potentially for off-street parking. All these things are going to play a role in how you enjoy or don't enjoy a location. And everywhere has a price to be paid. That's not the actual problem. The problem is if you leave things undiscussed and unheard, then they come into the fold later on. And that's when people get itchy feet. They start to build resentment. They start to look for reasons to start moving again. Like anything, let's say someone who keeps having the same ex, my exes all do this, my exes all do that. Property is very similar. People make the same mistake, just in a different flavour. For this week, my homework for you is to use my tokens to talk, which is sit down, give the other person explicit permission to talk about what it is they want, don't want, and put down 5 or 6 questions, come from a place of curiosity, and see where it goes. And that might help you cut your viewings from 10, 11 viewings in a couple of days, or wasting your days viewing loads of properties, to being clear on why you want something, but also acknowledging why you chose not to go view something. And if all else fails, just ask me and I'll fix it for you. In the meantime, have a great weekend. In Ireland, we have a bank holiday, so enjoy it. And we've Halloween coming up as well. So although I hate Halloween, for those who do enjoy it, I wish you a great time as well.